Good evening, everyone. It is Saturday night, March. Don't even know what day of March it is, but we are a week into Iran war, and I know there's a lot of mixed feelings. I turned off notifications before I went live, and I hope the Wi-Fi is good. I'm actually not on Wi-Fi because my wife is doing a show on Whatnot right now, so you should go check that out. It's at Padcast Studios if you're into Whatnot. So I hope the stream comes through okay. But I'm gonna be pushing buttons over here. This is running all I'm running all everything. I'm a one-man band, you know, pushing everything. Oh, dude, this thing is pretty neat. It's has a lot of power, a lot of power. So if you're not aware, we are into our first week of war with Iran, and today Trump said he was going to hit Iran very hard, and just based on footage that we've seen just coming out, it looks like the apocalypse happening over there. It's been insane. Just the footage is insane. The explosions happening over there. I think we hit their oil bases. So in Tehran, they are being heavily impacted. I'm just gonna just unload on everyone right now and just kind of share my feelings. And if you have your own viewpoint, your own feelings, put it in the chat. Let me know what you think. I know there's a lot of mixed emotions, especially if you go on X, you're seeing what people are putting out there. I think I immediately go to Candace Owens, but there's a lot of other people that are just saying we're sending our U.S. soldiers over there to die for Israel. Israel is the one that drug us in there. And even the big news of this week was Marco Rubio kind of slipped up and said we went into war because it was Israel that pushed us into there. I think he misspoke. I don't think that is what actually happened. I think we were going to go into Iran and try to basically make right what has happened over the last 30 years, 40 years, and that if we want to have peace in the Middle East, it has to happen. I don't want to be a person. I'm not going to just unleash talking points of the Republican Party. I don't care about that. I don't care about Republican, Democrat. I think Nick Fuentes, what he is saying right now about let's play both sides. I think that is a legitimate viewpoint. We should be playing both sides. Who cares which side you're on? If you're blue or red or whatever, it doesn't matter. You should be pushing people to do what you want. I don't agree with what Nick Fuentes is saying regarding his outcome and what he wants to come of it. I think he's wrong there, but I think he is actually the smarter one in the room by saying that we shouldn't just we shouldn't just go accept whatever our party has given us if they're not giving us the goods, so I think he's doing right by that, but I think his what he wants to actually come of this. I disagree wholeheartedly with a lot of things that Nick Fuentes says, and that makes me unpopular with a lot of things, but I don't really care about that. I don't care about being bought into just one specific person. I am going to be my own man. I'm going to give you my viewpoint, and that's what I think everybody should be. I think if you're bought and sold to one ideology or one person, I got to say everything right so I don't piss this person off. Get out of here. Get out of here. And I think that a lot of people on the internet, they're scared to say what they really think because they're scared of what the backlash is going to be. This war with Iran, Israel is the prime target there, and this is the divide. This is where we are. That's what I actually like it because I think that it's showing us the true colors of a lot of Americans. And people, I hear Nick Fuentes saying like you accept who's in leadership. Are you going to be with them or not? And but what we're actually seeing is a lot of people don't really care about it. They're just gonna just say whatever's popular. People are just gonna say what's gonna get views, what's gonna get clicks, what's gonna make me sound like I'm the righteous moral person as opposed to what you really think. People are such grifters, and it's coming out in waves in this war. This war is just showing everybody's true colors. So what do you actually believe? I think there's misinformation, disinformation happening right now. So what is real? What's not? I don't think we're going to find out in a lot of ways. I think as long as this war goes on, which is probably going to go on for a while, I think this war is going to go on for some time. But if we're being honest, America's looking pretty good. America is looking pretty good. Our arms, our military is looking pretty top notch. And anyone is going to say anything about them, you're going to look stupid. You're going to look absolutely stupid. So I think I'm fine with Israel taking us into war. I am. I'm because I think I agree with Israel in a lot of ways. I think they do things that aren't perfect. They're not perfect about that, and I know that pisses a lot of people off. I don't care. I think that they're the ones that are there. If we're gonna ride or die with anyone, I think it should be Israel because they're the ones that are gonna be that God is with. God is with God hasn't always been with them because he's judged them in a lot of ways throughout the years, the 2,000 years that, he's brought them back into their land. So if we're gonna ride with anyone, I think we should stand with the people of God. I know that that's a lot of people don't wanna hear that, and people don't like that. People that pisses people off. I really don't care. I'm gonna say what I really think, and it's obviously showing you what I really think because I know it takes a lot of people off. I'm telling you what my heart of hearts, what I think. A lot of people, and it's not the popular thing right now. It's obviously not the grifting position because if you want to be popular, especially on YouTube or whatever, you got to say the worst things heinously possible about Israel. You got to hate Israel. You got to diss on them because that's the cool thing to do right now. That's the cool thing to do. I don't give a shit about that. I'm gonna tell you what I think, what I believe, but what do you all think? If you think are you good with, like, Israel pulling the strings? I mean, America, we have our own we're our own people. We're our own nation. We have the military. We supply them with everything they need, and I think that as long as we're doing that, we're gonna be blessed as a nation. If we don't continue to bless Israel, we're going to experience judgment. Any judgment that happens in this world is God's judgment. God is using the US to judge Iran right now. That's what's happening. And any nation they get like a lot of people don't even think about that. It's not on our radar. We just think one nation rises up and has more power than another, and then they can kind of strong arm them or whatever. But God uses nations to judge nations. And right now, God is using the United States to judge Iran. That's the way it is. And I think as long as we're standing with Israel, if we are, and I'm not, this isn't just a talking point. I don't care. I'm not like I'm going to say everything in line with Israel. I'm going to be a person. I'm going to say what I think, and it's not going to make everyone on Israel happy. I'm going to tell you what I believe. I, are there things that they do is wrong? Of course. There's things that they've done is wrong. The whole Bible is an example of things that Israel is doing is wrong, but it doesn't change who they are as a nation. So I think if we're going to be if we're going to stand and continue as a nation in the United States and not crumble, we got to stand with them. We got to, and it's just part of it. It's the way that this world works. Your argument is that God is using the devil to judge. Get your head checked. God is using the devil to judge. I don't know what you mean. God is using, are you calling the United States the devil or Israel the devil? I don't know what you're talking about there. That doesn't really make sense. God uses nations to judge nations. We see that all the time. I think a lot of people just in the regular parlance of life, we just think that we just see the natural world. We see human history and one nation judges or one nation defeats another nation. But it's really there's spiritual things happening that we don't see. That is what happens in this world is just a manifestation of things in the spiritual realm. So God is using us at this time. It's not maybe there's probably going to come a time where as the United States is going to get judged. So I think it's just being real and honest of that. So I hello Daisy, how you doing? This if you're out there, are you all for Israel or not for Israel? Because I think this is the dividing line. It's becoming a very strong dividing line on a lot of the social media platforms out there. People we're becoming aligned more with them or without them. And I think is that I never saw this. It's become clearer and clearer for me as I see not anybody's dropped a like, so I'm assuming a lot of people out there don't like Israel. But I think that I think we are as long as we are standing with them, thick and thin. It's going to go good. It's going to go a lot better for the United States if we're supporting them. If we're supporting them, it's not to say I believe a lot of Israel has so much power in this world. I mean, that they could go in if they did push us into this. And I don't think they did. I think we have a lot of Christian Zionists that are in our government. And
Spoiler alert, I am a Christian Zionist. And that in Zionism is becoming like, which it wasn't always, but is becoming a word that people, it's almost Nazi. It's almost the word, it's almost what people think Nazis are of Zionism when they don't even know what. That's why a lot of people say, "Are you this?" Well, what do you even mean by that? Would Jesus have been a Zionist? Would the apostles have been Zionists? If you actually look at the word itself, yeah, they would have been. They would have been because they were Jews, and it's all it is that you believe that Jews have a homeland in in the land of Israel, and that's all it is. So I think without removing all the just the bad wording or the what people think of when you label someone that, it's just like looking at it with the heart of it. What is it actually? And I didn't always believe that. I came to, like, kind of that realization that Israel has a covenant with God, and it's the covenant of the Bible, and I think a lot of people just like to paint over that, and they wanna move past that, but they wanna forget about it and just say, "Oh, that was just." I don't even know what people are thinking. How can you take legitimately Jesus and Christianity and the apostles and the New Testament and everything, but you just wanna whitewash that God made the covenant with Israel to give them that land? You can't have it both ways. If you wanna be honest with the Bible and honest with the scriptures, you have to recognize that God made a covenant with them and promised them that land. So, what is happening right now is we see third temple is coming. It is on the horizon. It's where we're leading to, and I'm actually I saw Pete Hegseth, who is our kind of Secretary of War right now. I didn't realize he was a strong, like, a Zionist until, like, this past week when I think Tucker Carlson brought him up and used him in one of his videos. He likes Pete Hegseth, but it showed him back in, like, 2018, 2019, just talking about this thing, that the miracles that have happened, that Israel became a nation again, and the miracle that is going to happen again, that could happen again. I think it has to happen again. It's biblical. There is going to be a third temple. There's going to be a temple because that's where it gets very complex. We see that the Antichrist is going to go into go into the third temple and desecrate it and put up the abomination of desolation. He's going to, because it is a good thing. The temple itself is a good thing. And as Christians, a lot of people that are Christians, they don't think of it. They think, well, Jesus was the sacrifice. The whole thing, it's not. Jesus' sacrifice is for our sins and covering our sins, is making us right with God for eternity. But just the temple in general, God created the temple so that people could make sacrifices so that the unholy could come in contact with the holy, which is God, in this temporary existence that we're experiencing right now. So that's what it was. It's like when God, who is the infinite creator and perfect, wants to have communion with us sinners, because it's like, yeah, well, Jesus forgave all of our sins, but we still sin every day. So it's like, how are we going to approach God? Jesus' blood covers us right now and for all eternity, kind of like in the hereafter, I guess. But if we want to approach God in, like, in a way, and if we want to approach God like in this temporary time, like this fallen world, there had to be sacrifices. So that is why, like, it's not to say it's a terrible thing for another temple to come along and people to start doing sacrifices again. All that is just it's just kind of a way to purify yourself so that you can approach the holy. That's all it is. So that we see that is what the Bible says, that the Antichrist is going to go into the third temple and is going to desecrate it. He's going to put up the abomination of desolation, and but it's not to say that what the Jews do and reinstituting that is a bad thing. It's not. It's a good thing. That's why it's a desolation what the Antichrist is going to do. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but it feels so weird that it's like things are building up so much. Like last summer, they did the sacrifice of the red heifer. All these wars are kind of breaking out, but I've seen this happen over and over where things like seem like they turn into like hyperdrive, but then everything's cools off. It feels like over and over we're like on cycle. It's repeat of everything, like, is like stuff's hitting the fan, but then nothing happens. nothing like so I don't know, but it does feel like things are building up more and more that people thought it was unheard of that we would go into war with Iran, and now we're in war with Iran. It's it's kinda surreal that we're in this moment right now, that this is actually happening over there. But it just doesn't feel like it is actually happening w because we're just here safe as Americans, just in our country, and no bombs are going off here yet, and I hope they don't. But what God is doing with Israel, I would say, is it's the smartest thing in the world that the United States aligns with Israel and stays aligned with Israel because they're God's people. They're God's people. And they are the chosen nation. And a lot of people, and it's so weird. I see all the time. I see Catholics. It seems like Catholics are the ones that are most opposed to it. Evangel. I'm for me personally. I don't call myself a Protestant. I don't even really call myself any label. The only label I call myself is I follow Jesus Christ. That's it. Period. I don't follow like I don't adhere to any specific denomination or anything. I follow Christ. I'm not Catholic. I think there are a lot of true Christians that are Catholics. I think that all these divisions, these artificial walls that we put up are just they're just superficial and they're just dividing over things that really aren't the most important things in the world, but people divide over them. They think that that's a big issue. I can't go to this church anymore. But I mean, me personally, we've changed churches. We go to different ones. I just hate the whole church structure, the whole thing that we have set up. I hate that. I wish it was kind of like the New Testament. I wish the churches were of like this city is the church of whatever, Kansas City, or that's where I'm from, around that area in the United States. But like, or the church of whatever. It's like these just these things that people divide over. It's so silly. I just this world that we're in, I think it's this time that we're in, it's just like it's went so far and so long. We saw in the New Testament, the apostles and the people of God were already splitting up. They were already caught there was divisions happening, and we think over 2,000 years, it's just gotten crazy. And what drives me the most crazy is probably the Catholic Church because they are the ones any church that is saying we are the soul, we have the truth on this earth, we're the ones. And I know that, and to be honest, I have wanted to become Catholic a lot of times in my life. The only thing that kept me from becoming Catholic is probably my family, because I've said it repeatedly. I've said it to my wife. I've said it to my friends that is a Catholic. I want to become a Catholic. I actually even said it when I was going to a Catholic thing. It's because I'm so it draw like I love the whole thing about it, but I still don't agree with everything about it. I don't agree with everything that they believe. And really, I'm in a household that like my wife is would not really want to go Catholic at all. She wouldn't even want to go to a Catholic church. I would almost want to go to a Catholic church, but it's I just don't think any church has it all. I think every church has the bits and pieces. Some have things right, and then others have something else right. No one has everything right. And this is where it gets so complex with Israel right now because that is the hot button issue right now. A lot of people would just divide over Israel. And people don't even want to talk about it. It's pissing people off. And it's like, what do you actually I think of the biggest voices out there like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes. The biggest names out there are against and opposed to Israel. And they have such huge followings and influence. And I like each of them, you know. I'm starting to like Candace Owens a lot less and less. I really am. I'm struggling with Candace Owens. And I've made a lot of different videos about Candace Owens because everything she's saying, it's like I watch her videos, I see what she's saying on there, and I'm just like, it's hard for me to watch, but I can't stop watching. It's like I'm compelled. I feel compelled to watch every one of her videos, but it's like I've made it like to me, it's like the Howard Stern kind of thing. I think about him, the people when Howard Stern was really big, the people that disliked him were the ones that watched him even harder. They couldn't because he drives them more crazy, and that I feel like that's what Candace Owens, what she's doing every video. It's I saw it's driving me crazy, but I saw a video like today. I forget the guy's name, but he's starting to make kind of like what Candace Owens is doing to Erica Kirk. He's doing the same thing to her and analyzing kind of like her obsession with Charlie Kirk. And it was really good, and it made a lot of things make sense, kinda like what what Candace Owens is doing, she's projecting onto Erica Kirk a lot of the things that she is, a lot of the things that she's going through. And to be honest, I do the same thing. I project onto others the faults that I find in myself, the things that I don't like about myself or that I struggle with. I don't just because it's just you and me talking and, no one else is here. I'm gonna share something that probably shouldn't go on the internet. I probably shouldn't say this, but I've struggled with homosexuality myself. In a weird way, kinda in my past, I struggled with it, and me struggling with that was actually I looked at, like, a friend of mine, and I projected onto him homosexuality, and I made him made myself think that he was that, and I pushed it onto him, and, because I struggled with it, and I haven't really shared that with anybody, and just because it's, me and you talking, I wanted to share that. Just because it's something it's weird, it's a weird deal, it's something you don't wanna, be open and honest, but I'm really, to be honest, I'm a person that wants full transparency. The struggles that you go through, that I go through, I'm fine with letting anyone hear it because I know other people go through things, and everybody's going through something, and it's not really, and I don't know if I want to even dive in more into it, but it's just something it's almost the most taboo thing to say. I wanna say it because I want to show that I don't care. All of our things are gonna come out eventually. We're all gonna stand before God. We're all gonna see everybody's in perfect transparency. Everything is going to nothing's gonna be hidden. Every word that we've spoken is going to be broadcasted for everybody to see. Everything that we've struggled with is gonna be broadcasted for everyone to see. So I want to even share with even myself. It's not like I struggle with it now, really. I don't struggle with it now, but, it has something but I just think of that in my past when I was going through that kind of phase or whatever you call. I just had a friend and I made it to myself, made it seem like almost like I had a very I don't even want to say hatred. I just almost shamed this person because I was like, I felt like he was that kind of thing, of homosexuality or something. But it was me projecting because it was the struggle that I was going through. Which is a weird thing to say. It is the struggle that I was going through but I pushed it onto them, and I made it and I think that in a weird way, this is kinda what Candace Owens is doing. She sees Erica Kirk in it, and it makes her really mad because a lot of the things that she, wants, she's projecting onto Erica Kirk, and she's making her that, and I think that that's why it's just video after video. She can't let her go. She's obsessed with her. I don't think Candace Owens can get Erica Kirk off her mind. And the video I saw today of this guy doing I wish I knew his name. I could find it, but I liked his video, and I could because he's gonna be doing this week after week. He's gonna drop the next one, but he went through kind of where Erica not Erica Kirk, but Candace Owens kinda started up with Charlie Kirk, and when he was early on at Turning Point, and he made it seem like that she would have married him just so she could have kind of power and influence in Turning Point. And then whenever and so, she is so much attacking Turning Point because of that she wasn't the one that got to be able to go, become, the CEO herself, and that her Erica Kirk becoming that and doing that is actually what's driving her the most crazy, and she can't let Erica Kirk go, and she can't let Turning Point go. So, I hope that didn't make everybody feel uncomfortable whenever I brought up the homosexuality thing. I did see a lot of people, kind of somebody stopped liking the video. I don't care. I'm gonna I would be a person, I would share anything with everybody because we're all people. And the more that I see things when I go through this life, I'm seeing more and more the commonality and we're all so similar. I feel like we're all so similar. We're all going through something. And you where the my child support, you said he man on YouTube when little Daquane needs school shoes. I don't know what you're saying right there. But yeah, I don't know what you were saying there. But I'm going in a lot of different directions. I think there's it's This is a very crazy time, but we've had a lot of crazy times before. I think us just being in this war with Iran, I think everything is kind of ratcheting up more and more, like a whole lot. And where this is going to go, it could get bad. It could get seriously bad. But I think what Donald Trump is doing and just completely just leveling it, it sounds so weird because those are people over there. Those are human beings. Those are people just like us, but they're just over there. And it's like, that's why the only thing that I can even look at this and just think of it is just God is he's using the United States and Israel to judge that nation. And a lot of other nations are coming along board, coming alongside. And it's just like you can't get there's no what is truth right now? Because if you go on X, it's like people are on both sides screaming at the top of their lungs. And it's like, who's an American right now? Who like are I know we want to the freedom of speech. We want to because I'm very strong freedom of speech, very strong. But, like, if you're American, you gotta kind of it's kind I don't want this to be something like Vietnam where people are just that look at our soldiers and, like, are spitting on our soldiers and making them that we think that they're terrible human beings because they're carrying out these missions. They're following orders, and also, I would like to say that they're not just little China dolls. These people, these men, and sometimes women, these men, they've signed up to use their weapons. They, they're have like in certain instances, they're having the most time of their life because they're doing God's mission. They're doing what they feel called to do, and it's like that, like, is like freedom, and that is joy and peace, and like it can be terrifying, but like that would also be incredibly fun if we're being honest and serious about this. If we're just looking at it, like, wouldn't you want to be like fighting for your country, just living that out, you given that opportunity. I mean, like, that would be insane and would be crazy. And I have the most respect for all of our soldiers out there that are carrying out these missions and doing this like best in the world. United States has the best military by far. I'm coming alongside like thinking about more and more like I did not realize the power of Israel though. I to be honest, I've been a Christian probably about 20 years now. It was in 2006, so it'll be 20 years this May for me that I've been a Christian. I did not realize all of this about Israel. I thought that they were just kind of just in the old past. I didn't realize how much power that they have right now. And it's not it's I really didn't come to light of it, or I didn't become aware of it until lately and become red pilled about it. I started watching Nick Fuentes. I started watching Nick Fuentes and maybe, last summer and started like, kinda following him and just seeing, like and the more and more I watched him, I agree with him on a lot of things, and I know a lot of people don't like that. I agree with Nick Fuentes on a lot of things, but I disagree with him on his whole viewpoint of Israel and the Jews, which a lot of people think is, like, the biggest thing about him, and that's why people go to him. I disagree with him wholeheartedly on Israel and the Jews, period. Not in the sense that I don't think he's right. I think he's right about a lot of things, but I disagree with what I think that his underlying premise, because I think he is misjudging, because he comes from it from the Catholic perspective, and the Catholic perspective is that the church has replaced Israel. Israel is a relic of the past. They were just here for that temporary time to bring in the Messiah. Then they killed the Messiah, and now God has judged them forever. Which that sounds right, and if you're not familiar with the Bible, that could be what you think. But if you actually read the Bible and you're familiar with the whole beginning to end and all the various nuances throughout the entire thing, if you're very acquainted with it, that's not actually what happened. Israel did kill their Messiah. They killed their brother, you know? But it's not to say that they're forever forsaken now. The whole purpose of the Bible is God makes the covenant with the nation of Israel. Well, you could say with Abraham, then Isaac, then Jacob, who changes his name to Israel, and then through Moses, the covenant there. That's like a marriage. He be like was married to the nation of Israel. Then they went off and started whoring themselves to every other god and false idol that was out there because they wanted to be like all the other nations. They wanted to be like us. Now, I mean, America wasn't around back then, but like all the other nations, like Egypt and all these things, and they wanted to be like them because it's like it's not fun being the oddball. Like to be honest, like with just because it's just you and me, I feel I'm an oddball. I'm a person that is very far out there, extremely far out there, even within the church. Like within the church, I am if I go to a church and I really talked about my views in a lot of the ways, I would people would turn the other way. Because I don't align with anything, just I'm not cookie cutter. I'm not just like this is what it is because I don't think that one particular church has all the truth. I think the Bible has all the truth. And so I think a lot of Christians have some things right, and other Christians have some things right, and it's like we just divide and fight over just the silliest things over and over. And now and more, like right now, because I've really had to think this through. Like the topic of the day, the hot button of the day right now is Israel. What are you going to do with Israel? What do you believe about Israel? Because that is what is dividing everyone. And it's this people are just smearing and just throwing mud at the name Zionist. They're making it seem like Zionism is terrible and evil, which if you really know what you're talking about, it's not. It's not at all evil. It's actually biblical because all it's saying is that God made a covenant with Israel. He promised them the land, and that's it. They're His covenant people. That's the bottom line. And it's not like that Jesus got here and then God had to go to plan B. I got to go to I got like God's like I messed up. Oh boy, I messed up. Israel rejected me. So I guess I got to go to the nations now create the Christian church. That's really not what happened. It's they rejected him and then it talks about this that there's going to be a partial blindness with Israel in this times of the Gentiles this is the times of the Gentiles where we have the Messiah and we're like kind of like divided with Israel. But there's going to be a time when Israel is going to recognize and realize who Jesus is. That's going to happen. And it's like, man, I don't, it's like when you really think about it, like you think about all these people that are prominent Jews out there that they don't see that he is the Messiah is just crazy because it's not about like them not believing in him. It's just it's all it is their tradition is to deny him. That's their tradition because for so long, family after family, they've just been told, they've been raised, well, we're Jews, we don't believe in Jesus. We're Jews, we don't believe in Jesus. The whole point, like we see all these figures in the Old Testament that are types of Christ. In the Old Testament, there's like the brother Joseph. Israel had 12 sons, and one of them was Joseph. And the brothers, they sold their brother into slavery. He went to Egypt. But that was like a picture of the Jews abandoning and disowning their brother, which right now is they disown Jesus. They disowned their brother. They crucified him. But what happened later on down the road, later on in the story, I said Jesus, but Joseph revealed himself to his brothers. That's what happens. And that's the same thing that's happening right now. In the future, Jesus is going to reveal himself like massively, totally to Israel, to his brothers. But it's like right now, we as Gentiles, we're painting Jesus in all this American garb and making him look like a Gentile. Whereas in reality, God didn't do away with the law. When Jesus came along, he didn't do away with the law. He didn't cancel all that. That was the most Jewish thing. Jesus was the Jew of the Jew. He is the perfect Jew. He was the most Torah observant. He perfectly observed the Torah. The apostles, who are all Jewish, I didn't say they didn't perfectly observe the Torah, but they were Torah observant. That's why I think of the vision of Peter in the book of Acts, which we as Christians, Gentile Christians, most of us think that was to show us that Jesus doesn't care about Jews what they eat anymore. That it was to show Peter, you can eat whatever you want. You can eat pork and all that. You can eat all these unclean animals. I went through, to be honest, I struggled in myself when I had an identity crisis, a period in my life as a Christian, and I bought into this Hebrew roots movement. I went kind of down this road. If you're familiar at all, if you've heard about Hebrew roots, and it's this one law theology, which says that there's one law and it applies unilaterally to Jews as well as Gentiles. We're all under the same thing. And it wasn't until this I had to go through a lot of different things where I was going through an identity crisis where a realization that the law was not done away with, but it applies differently to Jews and Gentiles. It doesn't apply the same exact way. So that whole vision with Peter in the book of Acts was to show that Gentiles are accepted now. They can become part of the covenant community in Christ and become like on the same standing as all the Jews. Like they can be they're equal. They're not dogs anymore. Or they're not just just cattle, but they're on the same level because of what Jesus did. And God grafts Gentiles in. But it's not to say that could start eating pork, that Jews could go ahead and start eating things that are unclean. I think Gentiles, we just weren't commanded that. We can eat unclean things, and this is a struggle I went through because I went through a long time, like through a period of my life, thinking that I needed to keep kosher. Which I like as a Gentile, really keeping kosher it's not even possible. It's not I was doing things that I didn't even know at all what I was doing. And I think I went through that, but it taught me I went through this whole like a long road, and it finally came out where I came to this realization that Jews and Gentiles we're not the exact same. Just because God makes us, we're all one in Christ, it's not to say that when male and female, Jew and Gentile, now that we're all just one thing, there's still distinction. There's still distinction in God's community. And this is where I'm at. This is kind of the the headspace that I'm at, the way that I interpret the world, the way that I interpret like what I'm going through. You said, when did Yeshua of Nazareth become Jesus Christ? I mean, Jesus Christ is just that's the English word of saying it. I mean, his name Yeshua or Yeshua or Yahushua, I don't know. Like that, I did go through a period of time where I would call him Yeshua, but I mean, I think there's beauty in us calling him Jesus, or I don't know, Mexicans call him Jesus or whatever. God redeems people from all nationalities and ethnicities and tongues, and we're all, grafted in. But the hub of it is still Israel. The, and it's not to say that Israel or Jews are better than Gentiles. Think of it like this: Israel, God gave them commandments that there was Levites, and then He gave them commandments that there were priests, and then He gave them commandments that was the high priest, one person. It's just a degree of holiness of who can approach God closer, who is closer. It's just that there's still that distinction. Jews are kind of like the ones that are the hub, right, really close to the Father, really close to Him, but we're all on the same level. It's just a matter of degree. I don't think in the Old Testament when there was a high priest or a Levite that God loved that Levite more. Like, I mean, what is God's love? I mean, seriously, when we're thinking about God loving someone, like even just thinking about God loving is just it's hard to even fathom or imagine. I keep getting notifications, but it's like it's hard to even fathom or even understand. But it's not like God loves someone because that they have been given a higher responsibility or a more a strict degree of holiness. It's just that that's their role. And the Jews have a particular role. They were the ones that were given the oracles of God. They were the ones that the bloodline of the Messiah came through and came into this world. But we get to be a part of it. Gentiles. And I think the backlash right now. I think what it is, and when I think of Nick Fuentes, when I think of a lot of people, Catholics, and it's this don't want to accept the uniqueness of Israel. It's like you don't want to accept it because you think that means that God loves them more. You don't want to accept that they are chosen. They were a chosen nation. They were the chosen people. They have a special relationship with God. And it's like a lot of Gentiles just don't want to accept that they don't want to give in to that. To me, it's like it's rebelling against that which is evident. It's naturally evident that God has that unique relationship with them, that it's not gonna go away. It's forever. But we as Gentiles, we get to be grafted into it, and we get to become a part of it. This is like God took a kind of a side note in this period in time in history that he's working Gentiles into the covenant community, but eventually he's going to turn his attention back on Israel. And I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't think anybody does, but that is what is going to happen. Eventually, that's what's going to happen. And I just go back to always the Apostle Peter, the last thing that he asked Jesus before he ascends into heaven 2,000 years ago, he says, "Are you at this time going to restore the kingdom to Israel?" That's his question, his final question. And Jesus said, "It's not for you to know the times." So it's like, change your mind. Don't be thinking about that. But it's not to say that that's not going to happen. That's the whole, like, all the promises and the prophetic utterances of the Old Testament was that God's kingdom would be on this earth. And that's what the Jews were looking forward to. And that's what a lot of the Jews wanted to happen when Jesus came that first time. And that's why they didn't want to accept him because he was talking about something different. They wanted power now. They wanted political power now. And then they killed the Messiah. They crucified him, and then God judged them. And for 2,000 years, they've been without a homeland. Within the last, I mean, 70 years now, 77 years, that they have been brought back into the other land, which is crazy. We're just like, I was born in 1985, and I'm just thinking my whole life it's just been Israel's been here, but it hasn't been that way for 2,000 years. We're just used to it. It's kind of to me, it's always reminds me of like the internet or all this technology we have. We're just like it's always been that way. But really, I mean, we think about 2,000 years, like or even longer than that, like this is crazy times, and I think it's hard to get used to that, and I think we just become just used to it. We're just like, "That's just the way it is, it's always been that way," which it really hasn't. So we can tell God's attention is starting to turn back to his covenant people, and I want as much as I can get across because there is so much just vitriol and hatred happening right now against Jews and against Israel, and making everybody think Israel's the evil one. They're terrible. They're committing genocide. What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. And a lot of it's lies, it's propaganda, it's to discredit them, and that's the talking points. It's talking points that people just want to go with, and they don't even want to look into or what they're even thinking. They think a very popular influencer is saying it, so it must be true. It must be correct, and that's as far from the truth as you can get. So I think as we get further and further along to this war with Iran, as we get more and more into this, it seems like I would just want to be on the side of Israel, and I know a lot of people, there in the future, there is probably gonna be so, like, Israel could become a very hated people, and we see that, like, a spirit of anti-Semitism becoming unleashed. We see that. More and more people are just hating Jews for being Jews, hating because, it's politically correct to say, you don't like Israel, but you gotta be very careful about saying you don't like Jews or you think Jews are evil or whatever. But it's becoming more mainstream. It seems like more and more it's just mainstream and the cool kids are saying they hate Israel. The cool kids are saying they don't really trust the Jews, which I get it. I get it. I mean, they've just been a people group for so long and they might not be just naturally trustworthy at times, you know? But I mean, it's the same thing with Muslims. If you really look into it, Muslims in their kind of ideology, they can lie to someone that is not a Muslim and it not be wrong. And it might be kind of like there is kind of a deception that Jews and Israel has because they look at people outside of their faith as they can tell them whatever they want. They don't need to tell them the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And I just there is this barrier, this war that has been happening with Christians and Jews since the apostles died. When the apostles died, the Jews got kind of pushed out of the church and the Gentiles came into it. And then there was just this animosity that just bred more and more over the years, and there was just like this hostility that just was there. And I think that we're coming to like the heightened maximum extent of it after 2,000 years. We see it, there's this battle happening. But I think people that are aligning with Jews, I think it is the right thing to do. And I think the right thing for Jews to do is to accept Jesus, which is it's kind of like this is like the thing that I wonder and I think about like are Jews saved if they don't believe in Jesus? I don't think they are. I don't think that they're going to heaven or what we call going to heaven, what that is, you know. What I think they have to accept Jesus to be saved, to have their sins forgiven. That's why Jesus said, "If God was your father, you would love me." Jesus said that to those religious Jews that were all around him. I mean, that's the world they lived in, you know. He knew Jews. That was his people. He said, "If God was your father, you would love me." In a lot of ways, I think with Christians, I think there are some Christians that there are true Christians that really that dislike Israel, dislike Jews. You know, we've seen that throughout time, but I don't think it's the right response. I don't think it's the right response at all. And I think if God was your father, you would love the Jewish people. And it might be because you are kind of deluded right now that you're going through something, you've been told this other thing that's making you not love them or making you not like them or making you not stand with them. Maybe that's just what you're going through. Maybe that's just where you're at. But if God was your father, you would not have a hatred or animosity towards them. But I do see over and over, a lot of people just get influenced, like they think they get hurt by people that are Jews because Jews have a lot of power. I don't care. I'm gonna say what I think, and I know I go from one thing to the next, like day after day. I'll say one thing, and then I look back on it, and man, I was like, I don't believe the same thing I did yesterday. My views have changed. I think we can change our views. I think we can say what we think. I don't think we have to be lockstep tied to one thing. I think we can change and we can talk and what we really believe. I think that is just something that people can should feel safe to do, you know? But it's not a safe world. It's not a safe world. And I know a lot of people understand that. A lot of people realize that. But but where are you all at? Are you all thinking a lot of so it looks I'm seeing a lot of Quran quotes in the chat. So I don't know if you all I mean, I've done missionary work where I've been in heavily populated Islam countries. And Muslims are great. They can be great people. They are. I mean, almost they're. I guess I just get it out of this mindset of this person's great, this person's nice, this person's whatever. Like, there's a lot of people that have a wrong view on life, and that are a better person than someone else. And I've seen a lot of like there are a lot of Muslims are out there. There are better people outwardly than a genuine believer, a genuine Christian. And that's to be expected because it's not about being good that's gonna make you right with God. The only thing that makes you right with God is Jesus. So I've been where with a lot of Muslims that were a lot better people with me than me, and that makes me even think like even Christians like because Mormons, like there's a lot of Mormons that are out there that seem like a lot better people than real Christians. And when I say real Christians, that believe in the real God, the true God. Mormons don't believe in the real God. They don't. They like, but I don't. It's not that I'm going to say that all Mormons are going to hell or whatever. There can be Mormons that are calling out to the name of Jesus. They're going to a church that is calling out to the name of Jesus. The real Jesus is still there, and if they're believing in something, if they're calling out to him, and they're not calling out to like something in their mind that is a false god, the real Jesus could still save them. But I think it's just with everything. I think we are all going through this sanctification process. We're going through our views are always getting aligned closer and closer to the truth. If we're open to that, if we want that, I think there are people that just don't want that. Some people out there, they just want to believe what they believe right now, and they're not willing to change. I go through this all the time because I'm like, I believe this right now, but I'm like, I don't care about being right. I don't care at all about being right. I'm like, God, what is right and what is truth? That's all I want. I want truth. Period. And if it's the exact opposite of what I'm doing right now, that's what I want. And I think it's just what's Taweed? Is that the thing that you can just lie? That you can just I think that isn't that what, like, Islam, the Tawhid is that you can just lie and it not be wrong because it's you're lying to the infidel or whatever. I see that what somebody put in there. But, this is where I'm at. I don't know where you all stand on the whole Iran war. I think as we get further and further into this, we're gonna be drawn more and more into this, and we see a lot of other countries that are doing the same thing, that are throwing their hat in the ring. If we're I think we should stand with our government. I think we should stand with our nation. We should not just turn on our nation at all. And if we're smart, we're gonna align with Israel. Individually, if we're smart, we're going to align with Israel. We're going to recognize who they are in this world, that God has a future plan and purpose for them. And as Gentiles, if you're a Gentile, most people out there are Gentiles. If you're a Gentile, well, that means just if you're a goyim, which it's not. It doesn't mean cattle. It doesn't mean an animal. It means the nations. That's all it is. And there are Jews out there that look down on the goyim or whatever, but they're not operating in the right viewpoint. They're not operating in a right mindset, you know? Just like there are racist, Americans or whatever, there's probably racist Jews, There's racist everyone. And even like I think of the apostle Peter, it was so hard for him to even accept the thought of Gentiles becoming part of the church. God had to specifically reveal to Peter to put him in a trance and then have those unclean animals fall to the ground and say, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." He wasn't that the revelation wasn't to tell Peter that now he can start eating pork. The revelation was to tell him that Gentiles can become part of the covenant community, and that was the whole point. And I think if we're going to be honest, open and honest about ourselves, you know, people that are Christians need to continue to look towards the Messiah, look towards Jesus, and to make Jews jealous because that's the only way. That's where I'm at on this, and I think we should stand with our government, stand with our nation, and stand with Israel. But I hope you all have a great rest of your night. I'm gonna bounce off, and I hope you all stay safe out there, and have a great rest of your weekend and a good Sunday tomorrow wherever you go to church or if you go to church. So, God bless. I'll end it at that. Have a great rest of your night. See y'all, everyone.